Jeff, let me start with you. You know, Musk on the call tries to do everything he can to sort of talk about things other than making automobiles, it seems like. But I would assume you would agree that this fall in price is a result of that part of the business. And I'm curious as to whether you think it, is justified.
I do. I think anytime the gap between what is reality and happening today versus what is in Musk's mind that's going to happen in the future, when that gap widens out, the stock tends to come under pressure. There's certainly a lot of long-term believers there, but right now we're going to be in a bit of a void of information until that October 10th event around autonomy to give people some comfort. And then it's still unclear how you're going to actually solve the automotive problem as structurally lower margins and unclear what the path forward is around any type of new vehicle to reinvigorate demand.
Yeah. Tom, do you have a response to that in terms of figuring out so-called problems? And by the way, how important is that event on the 10th of October going to be in terms of sentiment?
I actually agree with everything Jeff said. I think this is going to be a near-term challenge stock. That event will be important, but I think, unfortunately, after the conference call we heard yesterday from Elon, a lot of the language was very high level, not a lot of concrete things. A lot of questions on the call were about regulatory overhangs. Not sure if we got clear-cut answers there, but the narrative has definitely changed on the stock. We are seeing folks who are more interested in the Robotaxi narrative. Remember, it's a retail stock. A lot of folks are into the narrative of the stock. So it could be important just to drive the thesis, even if we don't get something really concrete. But I actually agree with a lot of what Jeff said.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, I'll come back to you. Obviously, to Tom's point, we heard about storage for energy, which is an important component growing quickly. We heard about, obviously, robots and, most importantly, perhaps full self-driving. But back to automotive margins. What are your expectations then in terms of what we're seeing in the market right now and production-related risk that goes along with that?
Yeah, certainly the market is extremely competitive. A lot of new entrants, both domestically and in China. Unclear, what the expectations are for margins from the company. They didn't really touch that with a 10-foot pole in the call. So our expectation is that margins will be under pressure for at a minimum the next 4 to 6 quarters in the legacy auto business or the classic auto business. And then it really comes down to, on October 10th, is there any type of reinvigoration or refresh of the Model 3, Model Y that can stimulate demand? They backed off of the Mexico facility and any kind of new purpose-built vehicle that would be a structurally lower cost vehicle. So it really comes down to autonomy and what the path forward is there, which was incredibly unclear on the call.
Yeah. Tom, to the extent you're agreeing with much of what Jeff's saying, then why have a buy? Is it based simply on you're a believer in the longer term and many of these initiatives that were discussed on the call?
Yeah, it's not really on a lot of the stuff that's on the call per se, but it's just still the narrative on autonomy. I am a very firm believer in autonomy, the Robotaxi thesis, which I do think it's a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity above where the auto industry is today, and their ability to...
Oh, we lost.
Oh,
we lost Tom.
I was listening very intently to what Tom had to say there.
Jeff, we still have you, right? You're there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask about some of the political considerations here. It came up with regard to the Mexico factory and some questions about who wins the election. Former President Trump has threatened tariffs on auto production in Mexico. That's a factor. The IRA credit, the $7,500 credit, which has been a driver of demand. How do you look at some of the political risks for a stock like Tesla, especially with Musk now supporting Donald Trump?
Yeah, he was all over the map on that topic. I mean, certainly the Mexico facility and/or one ever built in India were the two that have been talked about to structurally improve the cost structure with what they call their unbox process, which is a revolutionary new way of making a car. Clearly now the company has way too much capacity relative to demand, and that's impacting the gross margins, which were at a 5-6 year low on this quarter's call. So we need to see not only what Musk calls the machine that makes the machine or a new way of manufacturing enable an improved tech advantage to improve the car margins. But, I'm still of the view that today EVs are more expensive than their ICE compatriots or comparable cars. And, I think we need a glide path on tax credits to, stimulate that demand from society. So if Trump is elected and we, roll back the 2027 EPA targets, clearly it helps some of the OEMs that have not made the investment in the EV space. Others like GM talked about pumping the brakes, which makes sense given the anemic demand that's out there. But that being said, most other EV car companies are still growing. Tesla is not, unfortunately. And the question is just what happens with the Model 3 and the Y, and what's the path forward with any type of new vehicle to stimulate anything from here.